Hey, what's up, everybody? So I'm coming to you today with the 2020 year-end top 10 for the 135-pound lightweight division. I was almost done with this video and I pressed the wrong button, so now I got to do it over again. So I'm going to go through this video a little quicker than normal because I'm not too happy about almost being done and then getting cut off. Again, guys, if you like my videos and my channel, please just hit the thumbs up, man. With the algorithms on YouTube, it really gets me more hits out there, and I really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We discuss all things boxing, and listen to the Standing 8 Count podcast that I post on here, and we will be going live with our podcast soon. So, excuse my voice. I was losing it already prior to getting cut off, so I'm going to try to hold on to it and go through this top 10 kind of quickly. So, excuse my voice, and let's jump right in. Give me 1 second. Let's look at the guys that dropped out of the 135-pound lightweight division. This is like my number 3 division in boxing now, that Ryan Garcia has made his way into the top 10. With Devin Haney being on the verge of it, that's where I got the lightweight division. It's number 3 or 4 in all of boxing. But anyways, let's jump in. So the guys that dropped out. First up is former 2-division world champion, 34-year-old Rances Barthelemy. Barthelemy didn't fight in 2020. He was coming off of 2019 where he moved back down to lightweight to challenge Robert Easter Jr. for a secondary world title at lightweight, but they had one of the ugliest fights ever. It ended in a draw. And then, heading into this year, he was talking about moving up to he was planning on moving back to 140, and the fight just didn't come to fruition, but that's where he is going to continue his career. He is trying to win a championship in a third weight class. He's ranked number 3 in the WBA at 140. He's not in my top 10 up there, though, but he's supposed to be returning to action, I believe, in February on a PBC undercard. So look forward to seeing Barthelemy back in action soon. Also dropping out is 35-year-old French contender Yvan Mendy. Mendy is ranked number 7 in the WBC, but he dropped out, and he went 2-0 in 2020, but he just doesn't get the competition. I think travel restrictions kind of hurt him as well, but Mendy, just doesn't get the interest from fighters because he's a solid fighter who can take punches, and he can dish out punches, and he just doesn't have a big name, so he doesn't get a lot of love. But I hope he can work himself into an eliminator this year. I like Mendy. Ever since the rematch loss to Luke Campbell in 2018, he's 7-0. He wants to stay busy, and he wants to get into some kind of an eliminator, but somebody's got to show some interest and fight him, so we'll see. Okay, so now into the new top 10 for 2021, our ending the year of 2020. Now, the fight with Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell happened on January 2nd. Now, even though that fight already happened, this is the year-end top 10 for 2020. So Ryan Garcia is not in my top 10 at the end of 2020. He will be in the top 10 now in 2021. After the win over Campbell, he has moved into the number 4 spot, and Campbell has dropped to 6th. So just want to give a heads up that Ryan Garcia is not in this top 10 because this was the top 10 at the end of the year. Excuse me. I hope that's clear. Okay, so number 10 is contender, Japanese contender, 31-year-old Masayoshi Nakatani. He buzzed into the top 10 coming off of a 1-0 2020 where he scored the biggest win of his career when he took on Felix Verdejo in December. He was coming off of a loss about 16 months earlier to Teofimo Lopez in a final eliminator. And a lot of people, myself included, wrote that fight off because he performed really well, losing a decision against Lopez, but he was very competitive in that fight. But a lot of people attributed that to the fact that Lopez was having some personal issues heading into that fight, and he wasn't maybe fully focused. He got a clean decision, but it was a competitive fight. So heading into this one, Verdejo was the favorite. He's a former prospect of the year, a guy who has had a hard time focusing, but was ready for this one. And heading in, it looked like he was going to take this fight. Verdejo knocked Nakatani down early and had him hurt and was just putting it on him for the first 4 rounds and really looked good. He won rounds 5 and 6 clean also, but you could tell when the second half of the fight started that Nakatani started to land his shots and was stalking him. Verdejo had to move side to side a lot to avoid the big shots by the taller and longer man in Nakatani, and that took a toll on him. Verdejo started running out of gas, and then Nakatani started landing more and more right hands. In 7th, 8th round, you could tell Verdejo was wearing out, and then in the 9th round, Nakatani knocked him out clean and, put his next foot forward for hopefully an eliminator in 2021. I would love to see him in the ring with a guy like Richard Comey. I think that'd be an all-out war. Nakatani, I think at the end of the year, this division is going to be wide open, and Nakatani would be smart in the first half of the year to try to work himself into some kind of an eliminator. His highest ranking is currently WBO number 14, but I think that is going to change soon since he just beat Verdejo within the past month. So I do believe that's going to change at some point soon, and Nakatani hopefully will get a final eliminator soon. I'm really hoping for that for him. Next at number 9 is former featherweight champion Lee Selby. Selby only fought once in 2020 when he took on George Kambosos Jr. from Australia. It was a good, solid fight between the two, but I personally felt Selby should have got the nod. I was kind of giving it the eyeball test. I didn't score it, myself, but I was watching it. It looked like Selby was landing more shots and dictating the pace, but Kambosos was definitely landing the harder shots. He scored a knockdown. But I still felt Selby deserved to win. They went to the scorecards, and Kambosos took a close split decision. This was an IBF final eliminator, so Selby missing out on that was tough. He's 33 now. He's got to bounce back this year, and this division will be open, but he's going to have to fight somebody good. And so it's definitely not going to be handed to him. So he needs to definitely get back into action soon and not hang his head about this loss, because he didn't lose by much, and there's a lot of people that thought he should have won. Next at number 8 is undefeated number 1 contender George Kambosos Jr. Now, George Kambosos fought Lee Selby and beat him. 12-round split decision, and he's now the IBS mandatory number 1 contender. That was his only fight this year. He is only 27 years old, 19-0, 10 knockouts. Kambosos is lined up to fight Teofimo Lopez next. That's it. They're talking like that's going to be his next fight for sure. It's a mandatory title fight, so he has that fight lined up. And if for some reason Lopez decides to give that belt up and not fight him, then he's lined up to fight for the title anyways next. So Kambosos is going to get his opportunity. Personally, I feel he's going to get his ass whipped, but hey, the best things come with opportunities, so we'll see what happens for Kambosos. Next at number 7 is former junior lightweight champion at 130, Javier Fortuna. Well, Fortuna was he had a disappointing 2020 because he was supposed to get the shot at the vacant WBC title against Luke Campbell. The coronavirus canceled their card that was scheduled for April. Then Devin Haney came back and was reinstated as the world champion. So Fortuna was put into an eliminator against former multi-division champion Jorge Linares, which would have been big opportunity. Linares tested positive for COVID, and that fight got scrapped as well. So Fortuna ended up coming back in November, taking on veteran but little-known Antonio Lozada. He dominated him and knocked him out in only 6 rounds, and is pushing forward. He's still the WBC's number 2 contender, but I firmly believe that Fortuna is going to fight Devin Haney for the WBC title next. The reason I believe that is because it doesn't look like Ryan Garcia is going to go with the mandatory title shot against Devin Haney that he has. It looks like Ryan Garcia is going to move in another direction. He wants bigger names than Haney next, so it looks like Haney's going to get a chance to prove himself, and Fortuna is at a crossroads, and he's going to have an opportunity to prove himself. Personally, I think Fortuna loses that battle, but I do think he can make trouble for Haney, and he could definitely beat him. I think he's definitely a live underdog heading into that fight, and I expect them to fight hopefully in the first quarter of the year is what I'm hoping for with these two, at the latest April. So we'll see. Number 6 is former IBF champion Richard Comey. Comey was coming off of that. He didn't fight in 2020. He was coming off that loss in December of 2019 to Teofimo Lopez when he lost the title and got knocked out hard in the second round. Walked right into a clean right hand by Lopez and couldn't recover. That was a mild upset, but it was just more the way Lopez knocked him out that really kind of took the juice away from Comey, which was sad because Comey's such a grinder and a tough fighter. But he wanted to come back during the spring, but the coronavirus pandemic just kind of canceled everything, so that didn't happen. He ended up not fighting at all. He's ranked number 8 by the WBC. I hope he's supposed to come back on a ESPN undercard on February 13th. And I hope by the second half of the year he can work himself into some kind of an eliminator. As I said, I think Comey and Nakatani would be a great fight, and I hope something like that happens, for Comey, because he's going to have to work hard to get back, but there are opportunities out there, so we'll see. Next at number 5 is former 2-time world title challenger Luke Campbell. Campbell, he didn't fight at all in 2020. He had the fight with Fortuna for the vacant WBC title canceled due to coronavirus. Then he was supposed to be fighting against Devin Haney. That fight got scrapped. They gave Haney an optional defense, and then they put Campbell in against Ryan Garcia in a interim title fight. And that fight, Campbell ended up testing positive for COVID, so the fight got pushed back. It got pushed back into 2021 on January 2nd. They went at it on DAZN. He hadn't fought in about 16 months. But, no excuses. He went in there, and Campbell actually performed well. He was getting beat early, and then he scored a monster knockdown and hurt Garcia badly, putting Garcia down for the first time. Garcia won the 3rd and the 4th round, and looked like Campbell was saved by the bell in the 4th, as he really got hurt at the end of the round. But in the 5th, Garcia came out guns a-blazing and wore himself out, and I gave Campbell that round. So after the 6th round, which I gave to Garcia, I felt like Campbell was down 4 rounds to 2, but only 1 point because of the knockdown that he scored. So if that fight goes into the deep waters, into the late rounds, where Garcia's not used to, Campbell really could have taken over, possibly stopped him. But in the 7th round, Campbell got hit with a left hook to the liver by Garcia that put him down, and he could not recover, and he was knocked out. Tough loss, but he was highly competitive in that fight, and nothing to hang his head about for the 33-year-old and the former Olympic gold medalist from 2012. Now, he's ranked number 3 in the WBC still. I don't know if that ranking's going to hold since he just lost in the last couple weeks. But I got him dropping a couple spots because of that. But I think Campbell, instead of retiring like some people have been saying, I think Campbell needs to move up to 140 pounds and compete. He is very good. He's tall. He's a bigger fighter. I think 140 makes sense for him. Why not test the waters there, see what they can do? That division's going to be turning over, in my opinion, and be wide open this year, because I think the winner of Taylor and Ramirez are going to vacate titles, possibly all of them, and move up to welterweight if they don't fight Teofimo Lopez first. Excuse me. So for me, I wholeheartedly feel that Luke Campbell should go test himself up there, make one last run to try to be a world champion, because Campbell is very talented. He's not your normal fighter out of the UK, highly skilled, and I truly believe is deserving of a world title, and I think he can get it at 140. I truly believe that. At least take one more run, and this is what Campbell was going to do anyways after the Lomachenko loss. He just stayed at 135 because there was bigger names, and he had a better opportunity at an immediate world title shot. And now he's not going to have that same opportunity, I don't think, as quick. And, he was already moving up to 140 in between fights anyways, in between big fights. So I think he's better set fighting at 140 pounds, but we'll see. Next at number 4 is former 3-division world champion Jorge Linares. Linares came in looking like he was being lined up for a showdown with Ryan Garcia in July. They fought on the same card in February, where Linares destroyed veteran and tough contender, veteran Carlos Morales knocked him out in only 4 rounds. And but then the fight with Garcia, just the two sides could not come together once boxing returned from the coronavirus pandemic, and it didn't happen. So Linares moved on to possibly face Javier Fortuna at the end of August. That fight was set on DAZN, and then he tested positive for COVID. Fight got canceled, and it never went down. So Linares ended up not fighting the rest of the year. We don't know 100% what he's going to do next, but I truly feel like Linares is going to face Ryan Garcia. Garcia does not seem interested in a mandatory title shot against Devin Haney. He wants bigger names. He wants Tank Davis, but I don't think that fight's going to happen next. It could, but I don't think it will. But I think Jorge Linares is sitting pretty right there. I think he's a good option for Garcia next. Linares is 35 now. He's got a lot to prove. He wants to prove he's still at the top of his game, and I think he wants to face somebody legit. I also think a Lomachenko rematch could be possible since they're both kind of highly rated, and and Linares were to beat him, the winner of that could line themselves up for Teofimo Lopez. I wouldn't rule out a Teofimo Lopez fight next if Lopez and Cambosos don't get together. So Linares is wide open. He's willing to fight anybody, and at 35, he needs to throw himself back in the mix for real and see what he can do. He drops 1 spot from number 3 last year at number 4. Hopefully we hear something soon out of him. Next at number 3 is the undefeated WBA regular champion, Gervonta Davis. He's 26 now, 24-0 with 23 knockouts. His only fight in 2020, he moved down to 130. Defended the lightweight title because he was still under that limit, and challenged for the 130-pound Super Championship at 130 against Leo Santa Cruz in the biggest fight of his career. It took place Halloween night on pay-per-view, so it was huge. They went toe-to-toe for 5 rounds in a really competitive bout. And then in the 6th round, with Davis slightly ahead on all 3 cards, Davis scored a monster left-hand uppercut that knocked Leo Santa Cruz out cold. And Davis proceeded with the biggest victory of his career and is now pushing forward. They're talking about fights with Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. Personally, I don't want to suspend anybody's, dreams, ruin their dreams, but I don't see any of those fights happening soon unless the promoters really decide to come together and make something big happen. We'll see, though. Doesn't mean those fights can happen. I just don't know if they're going to happen first half of the year or at all in 21, but we'll see. But I definitely think Davis is probably going to fight 1 to 2 times at 130 pounds before moving back officially to 135. He might not. He might fight at 135. But I believe there's maybe a little bit better options, or at least a potential of a bigger fight that can be made easier against Gary Russell Jr. at 130 pounds. Now, Gary Russell's willing to come up to 135 also for that fight. So I think Davis needs to seriously consider that bout if he can't make a bigger fight with Garcia or Lomachenko or somebody like that. But if they can make the fights, Davis is a highly desired fighter, and I think they should try to make that. So we'll see. Number 2 is former unified champion and 3-division world champion Vasily Lomachenko. Lomachenko fought only once. He returned in October and took on Teofimo Lopez and lost a close unanimous decision, or what should have been scored close. One judge had it 11 rounds to 1. That was maybe the worst scorecard I've ever seen in a fight, because Lomachenko at least won 4 rounds in this fight, at least. There was a couple swing rounds in there. There was definitely 6 rounds that I believe he lost. But I had the fight a draw, but it was close. Lomachenko, if he would have opened up earlier, he would have won that fight, in my opinion. He might have stopped him. He waited too long to open himself up, and it cost him. Cost him his world titles. But Lomachenko wants to get back in the mix. He's rated number 1 in the WBC right now. I think he's number 1 in the WBO as well. It might have been the WBA, but the point is Lomachenko wants to get back in the ring. He wants a rematch with Teofimo Lopez. Lopez is saying no right now, but I think Lopez will be enticed to rematch him before the end of the year. That's just my opinion. I think these two guys are going to lock horns again before Lopez moves up to 140. So Lomachenko needs a push for that by trying to become a mandatory contender in one of the divisions. He could very easily do that. You know, I would love to see it against somebody like that is good, another guy in the top 10. I'd love to see him fight Gervonta Davis. Not sure that fight happens because of the promotions, but I think a realistic fight would be a rematch with Jorge Linares. Why not? We'll see. But I believe, I'm calling it, I believe Lomachenko and Lopez are going to lock horns before the year is over, and I think Lomachenko is going to get his revenge on the youngster. But we'll see what happens. And finally, finishing the year number 1, previously number 2, moves up 1 spot, is the undefeated and newly crowned undisputed lightweight champion of the world, Teofimo Lopez. Lopez came out with the cards stacked against him in October. A big underdog against Vasily Lomachenko. Everybody thought Lomachenko was going to take him to school. At only 23 years old, he comes out and he scores a monster upset, winning a close, or what should have been scored, a close unanimous decision victory. I don't have a problem. I scored it a draw, but I don't have a problem with Lopez winning this fight. But at the very best, he wins a 116-112, which is 8 rounds to 4. The fact that one judge had it 9 rounds to 3 and another judge had it 11 rounds to 1 is a travesty. It's terrible. It really is giving Lopez the big head that he won this fight clean, which he didn't. The one thing he did that I am most impressed with, though, is he fought his ass off in the 12th round. He really did. And I was very impressed by that. You know, that performance in the 12th round. He fought like a champion, like he needed that round, and he should have needed that round if the fight would have been scored right. But huge win for Lopez. Now going forward, it looks like a mandatory title defense against George Kambosos Jr. is next, but that hasn't been 100% confirmed. They're talking about him going over to Australia to fight Kambosos in Kambosos' backyard. But that's not for sure. Now, I believe he's going to knock the shit out of Kambosos if the fight happens. And I believe that probably will be his first fight. Now, Lopez has said he wants to fight 3 times this year. I think by the end of the year, he's going to have to fight Lomachenko again. I really don't see any of these other fights taking place. I think maybe he could get a guy like Linares in the ring. But outside of that, I don't think the fights with Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, and Devin Haney are realistic this year. I hate saying that. I know it probably disappoints a lot of people, but I don't think it's going to happen. And Lopez is saying that he's pretty much done with 135 after 1 or 2 more fights. So I think we'll see the fight with Kambosos, and I think he's going to try to push for a bigger fight, and he's going to have to settle. If he wants a bigger fight for the undisputed title, he's going to have to settle for a Lomachenko rematch, in my opinion. And I think it's going to happen, and I think he loses the belt back to Lomachenko and then moves to 140. But that's just my prediction on what's going to happen. Lopez can move to 140 before that and fight the winner of Taylor and Ramirez for the undisputed junior welterweight championship. We'll see what Teofimo Lopez decides to do. But this is the top 10, 2020 year-end top 10 for the 135-pound lightweight division. Sorry about that, guys. Been a long night. Hope you enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.